Breakfast with Sonia Watson and Ben Fryer. This is BBC Essex.
Morning. After 8 o'clock this morning, we're going to talk more. You heard it in Lucy's news there about the UN representative who is visiting Jaywick. What issues are facing our coastal communities here in Essex? What can be done to tackle those issues? That's our discussion after 8. First, though, this Monday morning, we'd love to get your views on this. Do you think councils in Essex are getting too tough when it comes to clearing our streets of beggars? For the last month, Southend Council has had a team of 6 officers trying to get rough sleepers off the streets. During that time, 18 criminal offences have been referred to police, while 46 instances of street drinking have been stopped.
Southend and other councils, including Colchester, are now putting up posters telling residents that kindness kills, advising people not to give money to people living rough on the street. Do you think this is the right approach? Feel free to get in touch whilst you're listening to this conversation. 0800 111 40 41. BBC Essex went to Southend to hear if the council was doing the right thing from residents there.
I run a food bank at the church and I know that that's getting quite a lot of customers now.
I don't know, maybe by helping house them instead of maybe a lot of the police and everything just seem to be moving them on, and they're normally in all the shop windows, but where are they if they're not here? Because they don't seem to be housing them anywhere, and I don't think they're solving the issue. I think they're just making it unseen, personally. Some people are genuine about it, but some people have got a home to go to and they're just begging, really. So I don't know, I don't think it should be criminalised.
I think understanding the reason why they're homeless in the first place. To understand that is to really understand where you need to put the support first to stop them from becoming a victim of being on the streets as a result of that. I think is the most important thing. It's really quite difficult. Begging obviously can't be criminalised because there's a reason why they're doing it. I think it's understanding why they're doing it.
We need to do something about the homeless people. Look, you need to make it easier for them to survive. How do you go pay fines? You take them to court, they get fined, they're back on the streets begging. That's not solving anything, is it?
Well, let's talk about this then. Simon Cross is a representative from the Southend Homeless Street Hub and has been a Green Party candidate in elections as well. Good morning to you, Simon.
Hello there.
Thanks for coming in this morning. Kindness kills.
Well, this is a complete and total misnomer. I think people are confusing two things for a start off. There are some gangs of beggars, but this is part of a much, much broader criminal issue. Most of these people are part of gangs that are run by gangmasters and are part of something else, which is modern slavery. You could run an entire programme on that, to be quite honest. But if you take that out of the picture, giving a sandwich or a hot drink or even money to somebody who is genuinely on the street and going to sleep there that night, it may actually in some ways get them into a bed and breakfast for 1 or 2 nights a week, which gives them a chance to shower and freshen up, and also to get a decent night's sleep. Also, who are we to actually decide when people go out on a Saturday or a Friday night and do whatever they do, drinking or even drugs? Who are we to decide that people who have hit the absolute low point of their life, what they should do with the money that they're given? I mean, someday.
But what about if it is used to pay for drugs or alcohol? Are you then not contributing in some way to part of the problems that they're personally going through?
We're not the judge and jury over that, and while there is scant service to actually help these people, I mean, I have evidence here that in most cases when people have multiple problems, mental health and substance problems, there's very little help available for them. And in actual fact, the requirement of most providers of assistance through statutory means, they actually require people often to be drink and drug free before they'll give them any help. So you're in a bit of a catch-22. A lot of people arrive on the street with no drink and drugs issues, and many of them are very young people. So what they get into is a cycle of that is the way that they get through the day. So the answer is very complicated, but there is a simple solution. It's called housing first. It works everywhere it's been tried.
James Courtney is Southend's Council Cabinet Member for Growth and Deputy Leader as well. He joins us and is listening to this morning. Good morning, James.
Good morning.
Is the Council taking the right approach to discourage residents from giving money to people living rough?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you actually look at our campaign, I mean, it's talking about making a change. We're not asking for people to stop being generous. I mean, it's obviously very nice what people are doing, but actually to divert their generosity into a way that's going to help people get off the streets. And what I want is I don't want it to be made easier for people to live on the streets. I want it to be made easier for people to get off the streets and to get into that help that is offered.
Do you think the way the council's
campaign is asking people to make donations to local homeless charities that are helping get people off the streets instead of to those people that are pretty aggressively begging?
Simon, what do you make of what James was saying there in terms of giving money more to sort of charities and groups that help deal with this problem?
In point of fact, having worked with charities for 25 years, charities require relatively low levels of funding to actually keep going. For instance, the soup kitchens, they require a lot more things like food and clothing donations rather than actual cash. Obviously, cash donations do come in handy.
The money will come in handy,
Absolutely, yeah. But the thing about it is, when it comes down to people's immediate need during the daytime, the charities aren't really helping with that. And what the council's strategy is to push push people's donations into the direction of their own statutory providers. And to be quite honest with you, they're very, very salary heavy. People like HARP, which do a very, very good job within the remit that the council give them, they are the most heavily funded charity in Southend, but they own a lot of buildings, they have a lot of maintenance costs. In point of fact, the real way to get people off the street is to actually look very much more closely at things like occupation orders, where empty buildings are actually given over to the homeless so that they can use them as sort of hostel accommodation, and also to look at the housing stock itself. In actual fact, we did a number of freedom of information requests, and we know that the council have not used statutory legislation to actually take over empty properties that have been empty for a certain length of time. I actually know there are tradespeople who are living on the streets who would quite happily put those houses back into good order if the council were to possess them.
James, do you want to come back and respond to that?
It's all well and good saying this, but actually the people that are living on the high street, particularly rough sleepers there, were generally people who have not chosen to engage with services that we have tried to offer them. It's simply not the case that if those people were willing to engage, that we wouldn't house them. I'm not suggesting all of a sudden we would be providing, a council flat or a 3-bed council house straight away, but we do have emergency accommodation available for all of Southend homeless people. But those people that were on the high street, sleeping rough, aggressively begging, have refused to engage with council services. So
how are you going to change that, James? How are you going to get to those people that don't necessarily want to be got to?
Right, well, this is where we have to really work hard to try and engage with these people, which is putting more resources on the streets with the right powers, communicate that message out there to engage with those people. And the community safety team that's been on the streets for the last 3 or 4 weeks has had some really good results there. There's been a couple of long-term rough sleepers who we have helped into accommodation. I'm not silly. I don't want to just put certain people out on the street and then displace the issue to Thorpe Bay, to Westcliff, to Lee. There's no point in doing that. What I want to do is help and engage with these individuals. So
James,
this team has been able to do that and actually remove people off the streets into the system to be able to get help.
And James, there were only 8 rough sleepers in Southend in 2010. Now there are 72, and that accounts for 10% of all the rough sleepers in the east of England. Why has it got so bad in Southend? Who's to blame?
Well, that's an annual count, so that was last October. So I suspect that number increased since then. But I think since then, the work that we've been doing, the outreach work that we've been doing, that number has hopefully come down again. Southend has been hit hard by homeless numbers. We are a seaside town, which traditionally means that we have more rough sleeping than elsewhere in the country. But I think it's very easy to just generalise and to say, everybody's rough sleeping because of certain reasons. What we've actually been doing is engaging with those that are rough sleeping, finding out why they're rough sleeping, and then working with them to be able to get them off.
And what have you found out in terms of why they're rough sleeping?
Well, some people have, just fallen on hard times, relationship breakdowns, been kicked out of from their partner's house. Others have travelled from further afield and come to Southend. So
why has it got so bad in the last few years, do you think, nationally and in Essex?
I think we've just had we've just got the issue of people being. I don't know. It's not an easy thing to just answer in a sentence or two. To be honest, I think it is a national problem, and it's something that we at the council need to engage and need to do our bit for Southend, which is why I'm really pleased we've been able to bid for over £1 million worth of additional funding to be able to come in and tackle the issue that we've got in Southend.
It is actually quite straightforward to answer that question, Mr. Courtney. In point of fact, government austerity and measures that have driven so many people into poverty, combined with the ridiculous cost of housing, has a lot to do with this. And in actual fact, you are generalising because, first of all, the outreach that you have is not going to find most of these people because they won't engage, because they've tried to engage with HARP and got nowhere with that. And what we do find is that people from such as Off the Streets and the Homeless Hub and various other people, some individuals like Steve Campion, actually know these people. They know them personally, and the better way of engaging is to actually go through those resources rather than others.
Simon and James, we're going to have to leave it there. It's 7:18.